Really small, blindingly bright. This is so cool looking. Can you just turn this? This thing right here is the world's smallest spotlight. We're gonna play with all kinds of toys today. Everyone talks about being cinematic on YouTube, and they think that means blurry background, shooting in log, and using LUTs. They sit at their desk with a big softbox 3 feet from their face and have an RGB background out of focus behind them. Well, I hate to break it to you, but they don't use a lot of softboxes in Hollywood. That's a photographer thing, and they don't use these things. These things light up a whole wall, and that's not very cinematic. Look at this, for example. See how her face is lit up, but not the rest of her body? In fact, the whole first 10 minutes of the film has a spot of light on her face, but not the rest of her. And these are medium wide shots, so you cannot have a light close to her face. Also notice the background. The buildings and sets also have spots of light strategically placed, only lighting up certain areas. The entire building is not lit up evenly. If it was, it wouldn't only be boring, it would make her face not pop out like it does. So today we're going to talk about spotlights, all kinds of lights, and I'm going to try to keep it within a range of normal things that people can buy for YouTube, not big giant professional stuff, but stuff that you can use. Spotlights make a little beam of light that focuses on like a face, but it can also be used for like product stuff where you're trying to highlight an item or something. There's so many ways to use this, and this is what they use a lot in Hollywood to focus your attention on something, someone's face or whatever it is they want you to see. They put a little bit more light on that area, and usually the lights are further back, so you need a thin beam of light that goes quite a distance. So all the lights I'm going to show you today will be measured at 7 feet, which is over 2 meters. I'm going to try to keep it within this size to be considered a spotlight. So there's different kinds of lights, different kinds of modifiers that can be used to put on front of a light. These are ones that you see a lot of that are called spotlights, but they're not really spotlights. These use something called a gobo. A gobo is a pattern that's cut into a round piece of metal so it doesn't burn, and then that goes into one of these things here, and it projects the pattern onto the wall. These things cut the light down a lot. 2, 3, 4 stops of light. These are not good for creating a spot of light. They're good for creating a pattern. 30, 60 watts, forget it. These things are really only good for strobes and stronger spotlights that are like 150 to 200 watts or something like that, like a lot of light. So this is a Bowens mount one. This one, you get these by Godox, has one for 300. Well-Making has one for 170. This is one by Ambitful. It's $140. This one is by, it's a cheap one by Null Bofu. This is a Chinese one, is $89. I don't use these, so I'm not really recommending those. Then we have Fresnels. These are the most used ones. These ones have a special lens that projects a beam of light really focused onto whatever it is you want. This one is by Aperture. It's the Fresnel 2 times, and you make the beam wider or narrower by turning it this way. This one is $120 it's a 2X by Aperture. This one is by Smallrig. This one is also the same price, but instead of turning the whole thing, you just turn the little knob on the side here, and that's kind of cool. This one is considerably heavier than the Aperture, but it makes a smaller spot when you put it all the way in, and that's really good. It's got a fan that comes on. There's no motor. It just automatically starts spinning from the heat. That's kind of cool. Same price. Then there is one by Godox. This is the FLS5. This is for the smaller Godox mount. This is $79. Here's one by Inkee. This is for the Inkees. This is only $50. Here's some by Stella. These go on the Stellas, like these ones here. These are Stellas. I don't use these anymore because they're too heavy, but they come with Fresnels, and these Fresnels focus the light, like they stick on here. But I use these Fresnels for all kinds of things. Like here's one that for the Stella Reflex, and they come in different widths of beams. So what I did is I took one of these and I stuck it on the front of the Intelitech pocket cannon here, and so that focused this beam. This is actually a Stella Fresnel that I literally glued on the front. I took the lens out that this came with and glued that on there, so you could do that. Anyway, so Fresnels are a great way of focusing a beam of light. Then you have something called a honeycomb grid. This is something I like for strobes. It's very, for when you travel, this is a great way to create a beam of light. This is a 10 degree. They come in different, the tighter the honeycomb is, the narrower the beam is. So this is a 10 degree honeycomb grid. They're really cheap. They're like 20 bucks. And they go onto one of these reflectors, and that's a Bowens mount, and then this is a great way to do it. These cut down the light quite a bit too, so but they're very portable, which is kind of cool. Then you've got these things. I'm sure you've seen these. This is another one. This is 20 bucks. This is by Neewer, but all kinds of companies make them. It does create a beam of light, but again, this kind of thing cuts down the beam of light a lot. The best thing you can use to create, from what I like, all of these, it's called a parallel beam intensifier. These are not cheap. This one is $470. This actually increases the light 2 stops and creates a parallel beam. And a parallel beam is a beam of light that no matter how far away you are from this light, the light will not spread. It will go in straight parallel beams. This is called an aspheric lens. It's a glass half dome. All my favorite lights have aspherics on the front. They're smaller and more powerful than Fresnels. Anytime I see this glass dome on the front of a light, I know I'm going to like it. I know some of you are going to say, well, isn't the best spotlight just a flashlight? Yes, flashlights are great. I mean, these are cheap. This is 20 bucks. This is one of the most powerful lights I have here today. And these are great. They create a really narrow beam of light on the wall. That's perfect. Look at that. Look at how narrow that is. Now there's a problem though, and that is these things create a greenish, bluish, greenish light. That kind of sickening light. I don't like these, but it is an option if in a pinch if you want to do that. But let's get more to the fun professional stuff here. This is by Godox. This is a $500 item from here to here. So I have a normal light here that is Bowens mount, and I just put it on this attachment here. Okay, so this is the attachment. This is the $500 part, and I'll show you what it does in a minute. So any Bowens mount will work on this, and this is a 200 watt light, so GVM 200. And what this has, well here, let me turn it on. Let me show you. This is a 200 watt light, and you can really, see that spot on the wall there? Look at how precise you can make this. You can get you can have soft edge or really, really hard edge. So 200 watts, 150 to 200 watts is where you start getting stuff like this. I mean, you can have a really precise light like that. And these have blades on the sides here where you can change the shape. Look at that. You can change the shape however you want by changing the blades. And you can have a really, really, really tiny light. Look how small you can get with that. Look at that. Look at that. That's pretty amazing. You can get cheaper versions of this from Inkee and COLBOR for like 190 bucks, but it's clunky, and I don't like big, heavy, clunky, expensive things. I like little tiny things like this, or a little thing like this, you know, that is just small. So I'm gonna take this one out, and let's focus on the fun stuff. Most of these can be battery powered if you're using a V-mount or D-tap or something like that. But anyway, so let's get into the smaller ones that typical YouTubers might want to use for creating a narrow beam of light. Here we go. Okay, I guess we'll go from the brightest to the dimmest. The brightest quote-unquote spotlight is also one of the smallest. It's a flashlight. It's not officially a video spotlight, but you could use it as one. The Light Marauder Mini Flashlight. $200, 7,000 lumens, and has 2 settings. A small hard spot with color fringing on the edges, and a softer edged wider spot with no fringing, which is more useful. What makes it great for video is it has no fan. It's totally silent, but because it has no fan, it gets scaldingly hot, so you have to mount it to something. You can't hold it with your hands. The light's a little greenish blue, but you could color correct it with gel if you wanted. It'll run 90 minutes. That's an hour and a half, but it'll start to dim a bit after like half an hour. So it's small, it's bright, and it's silent. Next in brightness is an actual video light, and it's one of my favorites because it's pretty small and can run on a V-mount battery power. It's a Ulanzi VL120, and I've got a Smallrig Fresnel on it. Pure, clean, high CRI white light. The light is only $109. It's a great price, and the Smallrig Fresnel is $120, which is bigger and heavier than the actual light. But it gives you a nice, small, concentrated, bright spot, and you can run it with a tiny V-mount like this little Cane TV V-mount D-tap battery. The Ilanzi 120 is a cheap, small, very versatile, all-purpose Bowens mount, 120-watt light that's easily portable. The Bi-Sight BS843, it says 1 million lumens. That is BS, but it is bright, and it's only $20. It creates a small, very bright, hard-edged spot. All right, back to a real video light, the Godox S60. This thing is great. It surprised me how bright the thing is. It's bicolor. It's got a knob on the back so you can adjust it from wide to spot. It's great just by itself. It can create a small spot on its own, but if you add the Dedolight Parallel Beam Intensifier, it brightens the light by 2 stops. So it would go, for example, from 5.6 to 11. The only thing I don't like about it is this clunky control box. Sure, it can run on a V-mount battery, but you still need that big, stupid control box, so I hate that. It's $360, and if you want the Parallel Beam Intensifier, that's another $470, but you don't need that. The S60 works great on its own. Now, I know people are going to ask me about the new 120-watt Godox ML100 Bi, and it comes with different lenses, but even with the 15-degree lens, it can't really create a spot. And no, the Godox FLS5 Fresnel won't fit on this, and the light has a distinct purplish color, so let's move on. Next in brightness is the Inkee 60 with the little Inkee Fresnel. Nice clean light, high CRI, no fringing, very portable, and the Fresnel is very small and lightweight as Fresnels go. This 9600 milliamp battery lasts for hours, so most airlines won't allow it, so you'd have to use the Inkee 30s if you're traveling. It's bicolor, $200, and that little Fresnel is just $50. Next up, the Aputure 60X Lightstorm. It can run on V-mount batteries, and if you're running house power, it does have a power brick, but it doesn't have that big clunky control box like the Godox S60. As with all Aputure stuff, this is a high-quality product, and you can dial in wide to spot just on its own. But check this out. If you put the Aputure, same brand, 2X Fresnel on there, it doesn't work. It cuts down the light. You don't get a spot. It's weird. But if you put the Smallrig Fresnel on there, it looks great. Nice, concentrated, bright light. If you put the 10-degree honeycomb grid on there, that looks good too. Look at this. It looks great. Nice clean light and everything. Even the little primitive snoot, that looks good too. That's really weird. So this is a good high quality product. I like it. It's $420, so it's a little up there, but it has a nice clean light with no fringing, and the light's a little warmer in color than the Ilanzi 120. Some people will ask about the 70-watt Godox ML62, but again, it's a Godox mini Bowens mount, and the FLS5 Fresnel won't fit on this, so you cannot use this as a spotlight. And it has fan noise. That takes us to the Inkee 30-watt with a little Inkee Fresnel, great portable spotlight, a little dimmer than the 60-watt obviously, but still good as a spotlight. If you're traveling, I highly recommend these. They're bicolor, they're portable, and produce a nice clean high CRI light. And it's a nice soft edge. This is only a 30-watt. The 60-watt is obviously a lot brighter, but this is a nice portable, small spotlight that you can use on location. It's very, very small, and it's bicolor. It's $200, and the little Fresnel is just $50. And you can just use the normal reflector for wider beams. These are great portable lights for being on location. Now we get into the world of Dedolight. These are pro. I love these lights. Dedos are some of my favorite little spotlights. They make both LED and true tungsten lights, and I have fallen in love with tungsten lights. So I started buying up all kinds of these little tungsten Dedolights like the DLH4 Aspherics and the DLH M4-300, which has the power box attached to the light, so there's no dangly control boxes or power bricks. These things are great. They're so portable, they're bright, you can adjust them from wide to spot, and they're very bright. And of course, for more brightness, you can stick the Parallel Beam Intensifier on the front. They also have LED bicolor versions like the DLED7 that I have here. I can adjust these, and you can adjust these from wide to spot. You don't need any modifier. They have an aspheric lens on the front that creates a great spot. Dedolight is the most professional out of all of these. I think they come out of Europe or Germany or something like that. This is a really, really high-end professional light system. They make them all LED now. You can still get tungsten ones. These are the ones where you can put the parallel beam on there. Look at this. Very high quality, high CRI, no fringing, but they're not cheap. These things are $2,000 a piece. Again, these are for professionals, but they are fantastic. This is what the pros use, and a good gaffer usually has at least half a dozen of them in their kit. But I know, it's out of your price range. You want cheap, so let's move on. All right, straight from AliExpress, we have the Deduced. It's $50 and 50 watts. Wall power or 12 volts. Really simple. Daylight only. On-off switch and a brightness knob. Turn the front to go from nice and wide to spot. The light's a little bluish, yellow fringy edges when the spot is all the way, but it's pretty bright. Too cheap for you? Okay, here's the original Godox ML60. I like the can shape. It's got these cool little yellow knobs on the back. Now this one will take the FLS5 Fresnel. And by the way, if you use the smaller, newer reflector from the ML62, you can increase your light output by 1 stop. That's double the amount of light. I love the size, the shape, and the design of this thing, but it's $300, so let's move on. Okay, here's a cute one. Now, I like this one because it's super lightweight, and I love lightweight, small, cheap plastic stuff. It's the Smallrig RC30b, and it's only $99. That's feel-good territory. It's bicolor, has a nice readout on the side, and it's more fun to use than the Godox S30. You turn this ring on the front to adjust it from widespread to spotlight. You don't really need the barn doors, but it looks cool. They're plastic and they don't weigh anything, so I just leave it on. It's just so cute. It's lightweight and it's fun. Speaking of the Godox S30, it's just like the S60, obviously a little smaller and $160 cheaper, and yay, it doesn't have that big clunky control box. It does have a little power brick, but it's a small one. It's only 30 watts. You can run it on a DTAP battery just like the S60. And just like the S60, you can use the Dedolight Parallel Beam Intensifier on the front. Nice quality light, no fringing, but out of the box it's very dim and it has fan noise. There is a rebranded version called the COLBOR S30. It's the exact same thing as the Godox S30, but it's $50 more for some reason. I don't know, but I got one. It's the exact same thing. This is another one of my favorites because it's so compact and portable. The light panel's COLBOR. It's not bicolor, but it's a little warmer color than daylight, so it's great for skin tones. Turn the knob on the back to adjust the brightness, and you turn the knob on the front to adjust from wide to spot. I only have these barn doors on these things for show. These things don't really do very much, but it's kind of cool. So anyway, this thing is really cool. Look how small this is. It is kind of like a flashlight. It has a button on it, and you push it, and it goes on. And yeah, you can plug it in the wall, but it also, this is so cool. Check this out. It's battery powered by 6 AA batteries. 6 of these in here. So this is very, in which you can get anywhere in the world. So this makes it very, very portable for being on location. And then you focus it by turning this, which makes it a narrower beam. And you can put the barn doors on it, but barn doors don't really do much. It is brighter when you use the wall plug on there. That makes it brighter, but it's pretty good for being battery powered. Nice spot of light on there. That's nice. So this is pretty cool. You can fit a bunch of these in your bag when traveling. $197. Little bit of fringing and kind of dim, but definitely usable. Very portable, simple to use, very user-friendly, and fun to have. Okay, Came TV. I think I have 8 of these. These are great. You can run them with NP batteries if you want, and no, they're not dimmer when you do. You slide the front forward or back to go wide to spot. They have a high-quality light with no fringing, nice soft fall-off. They're not very strong, but they are very versatile. They have the B30S, which is a 30-watt bicolor that can run on one single NP battery. It's $120. There's the Q55W, which is daylight only 55 watts and runs on 2 NP batteries, or wall power, of course. Or my favorite Q55S Bi, which is the 55-watt bicolor version, $260. B&H has a similar one called a Generate Torpedo, which is $50 more, but it's kind of the same thing. I got this one because it looks cool. The Intelitech Light Cannon X100. This is more high-end. It's a 100-watt Bowens mount light with a big clunky control box. Like the Godox S60, you can power it with a V-mount battery, but that attaches to the back of the big clunky control box. It's $700, so I know you want me to just move on, okay, but let's just admire it for a moment because it looks cool and that's what matters. Here's what the Alonzi VL120 looks like with a 10-degree honeycomb grid on it. It works, but again, it's a lot dimmer. The Fresnel works much better. Save the honeycomb grid for really bright lights or when doing flash photography on location like I do. I know what you're saying. Come on, Marcus, give us something cheap and practical we can actually use and afford. Okay, back to AliExpress it is. Here's something nice, the Nice Photo BJ600A. It's only $75. It's bicolor, it's small, it's easy to use, no fringing, nice soft fall off, and it's only $75. You just turn the front to go from wide to spot, and you can power it with a 15-volt battery like a V-mount if you want. It's kind of dim though. Now you're probably wondering about that Intelitech Pocket Canon Mini I showed you earlier where I stuck the Stella Fresnel on. It's not very bright, but it's only $195 and it runs on a single NP battery and it looks cool. And again, looking cool is what matters. Now, one of the most interesting ones that is so small, it's so creating a little spot that is just so cool, that is inexpensive and small. I mean, it doesn't get smaller than this. This is the most, you're gonna laugh at this. This thing right here is the smallest spotlight creating thing. It's a light bulb. This is actually an LED bulb and it's focusable. You screw this into a light bulb socket and in here, and they come in daylight and tungsten, which is really cool. And in here is a little lens that you screw. It's got a little Fresnel lens in there. And you unscrew it. See see these lines here? This makes it a spot or a wider angle, and it creates a spot on the wall. And then it's not super bright, but it's just enough to give an accentuation on something that you want to highlight. A person's face or an object. It's a really soft edge, and it's cheap. It's not that expensive, and look how small it is. I love this. I love this because it's small, and it's so easy to use. It is, you do have to plug it in a wall, but I mean, this is great. This is great. They're called PAR 16 and they're only $15 each, and they can go from a wide angle 60 degrees down to a 15-degree spot in either daylight or tungsten. Really nice soft fall off, a beautiful soft glow ambiance, subtle accent spotlight. These are the smallest, cheapest spotlights you can get. And the darkest of all is the Inkee 30 with a snoot on the front. If you spread this open, this becomes Bowens mount, so you can put a snoot on here. And this is pretty portable, actually, but remember, these kind of snoots are not very bright, so, but it does work. I mean, it's battery powered, which is kind of cool. So, you got a spotlight. It's just not very bright, but this is a cool looking setup. Kind of like a 1950s sci-fi earth drilling machine. So my favorites out of all of these are anything by Dedolight. These things are great, but they're probably too expensive for most people. The Aperture 60X is great. No big clunky control box. It's very high quality. It can run on V-mount or even 2 NP batteries with no loss of brightness. I love the Inkees. They're very portable and quite bright. And they will take Bowens mount, surprisingly. I love the Ulanzi 120. The V-mount goes right on the back. It's got a Bowens mount on the front. High quality light. Even though it's not very bright, I love the light panel's caliber because it's so small. I love the light that the Godox S60 puts out. I just don't like that big clunky control box. So I'm really torn with that one. I love how lightweight the Smallrig RC30b is. And of course, I love the little PAR 16s. The smallest, cheapest lights you can get, but you do have to plug them in a wall somewhere. Okay, what I'm giving away. A set of 3 Olight Marauder flashlights is a set, 4 Bowens Gobo projectors, a Year Blue pistol grip flashlight, a Dedeuce daylight adjustable spot, a nice photo BJ600, a Godox ML62 bi, Godox ML100 bi, and a Cane TV 30-watt bicolor. MarcusPix.giveawayenter.com. All right, so there you have all kinds of ways of projecting a small beam of light on a face or an object or something like that. I love playing with stuff like this. I love lighting more than cameras. It's just so much fun to be creative with lighting, because lighting is really what makes photography and video look good. You can use any camera and make things look great if you have good lighting. So this is where it all starts, is good lighting and being selective with what you light up with little beams of light. That's what Hollywood does, and this is what creative people do that want you to have fun with light. Anyway, so I will scour the world for more interesting, fun things to share with photography and lighting and all that kind of fun stuff with you, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, have a good one.